The envelope was tucked inside his old copy of Moby Dick, a book he always promised he'd read but never did. My fingers brushed against it while I was dusting, a simple, off-white rectangle that felt all wrong. I pulled it out, my name written on the front in a handwriting that wasn't his. And in that quiet, sunlit study, surrounded by the life we had built, I realized I had never really known my husband at all. This is my real-life story. My name is Helen. For 32 years, I was married to David. He was a good man, or so I believed. A reliable man. He was an accountant, precise and careful. I was a teacher. We built a comfortable, predictable life in a quiet suburb. We raised 2 wonderful children, who are now grown with families of their own. Ours wasn't a marriage of grand passion in its later years, but it was built on a foundation of what I thought was deep, mutual respect. We were a team. We navigated financial struggles, health scares, and the beautiful chaos of parenting together. We finished each other's sentences. He always made the coffee in the morning, I always made the bed. David passed away 18 months ago after a short battle with cancer. It was a devastating loss. The grief was a heavy blanket, smothering everything. But in that grief, there was also a strange clarity. I looked back on our life together with a kind of tender pride. We had made it. We had loved each other well. I thought I understood the entire story of us. I considered myself an expert on forgiveness. I'd forgiven small betrayals over the years, a forgotten anniversary, a harsh word spoken in stress. I believed forgiveness was the glue that held a family together. It was a point of pride, this capacity of mine to understand, to absorb hurt, and to move forward with love. I never imagined that foundation was about to be tested. The task of cleaning out David's study had felt too final, so I'd put it off for over a year. But that Tuesday, I felt a surge of strength. I decided to start with the bookshelves. I was dusting the top shelf, the one with the classic novels he collected but never read. Moby Dick was particularly thick. As I pulled it out, something slipped from within the pages and fluttered to the carpet. It was a sealed, letter-sized envelope. It was crisp, not yellowed with age. My name, Helen, was written on the front in an elegant, looping script I didn't recognize. My first thought was that it was a late love letter, a final surprise from beyond the grave. A bittersweet smile touched my lips. My heart swelled with a fragile hope. But as I turned it over, I saw it wasn't sealed with a kiss, but with a single, stubborn piece of clear tape. This wasn't a romantic gesture. It was a secret, deliberately hidden. The turning point came not when I opened it, but the second I saw that tape. I knew, with a cold certainty, that the man I had loved for 3 decades had left me a mystery, not a gift. My hands trembled as I carefully peeled back the tape. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It was a bank statement. But it wasn't from our joint account, or the savings account I knew about. It was from an account at a different bank, entirely in David's name. The balance took my breath away. It was more than $75,000. I sat down heavily in his leather chair, the paper feeling like lead in my hands. $75,000. Where had it come from? Why had he hidden it? The questions swarmed, loud and insistent. The quiet of the house, once a comfort, now felt like a judgment. The first incident was small. I was paying bills a few days later, and I looked at our joint checking account history. I started noticing small, recurring transfers over the years, $200, $300, going to an account whose last 4 digits matched the secret one. He had been methodically building this separate life, dollar by dollar, for a long, long time. The loneliness that followed was profound. I'd be cooking dinner for one and suddenly wonder, Was he thinking about this secret fund while he praised my meatloaf? I'd look at our wedding photo on the mantel and no longer see a young couple in love, but a naive girl standing next to a stranger. The pressure escalated when my daughter, Sarah, mentioned wanting to start a college fund for my grandson. "We wish Dad was here," she sighed. "He was always so good with money. He would have known just what to do." Her words were a knife twist. The good with money man was a man who hid assets from his own family. The emotional hit was a constant, dull ache. I felt myself shrinking, becoming a smaller, more suspicious version of myself in the home we had shared. The breaking point came when I found the key. I was going through his winter coat pockets before donating them, and my fingers closed around a small, cold metal key in the lining of his oldest parka. It was a safe deposit box key. It had a tag with a number, but no bank name. It took me a week and calls to 3 different banks before I found the right one. I had to bring his death certificate and my ID. The clerk led me to a small, sterile room. The box was surprisingly heavy. Inside, there were no stacks of cash. Instead, there was a thick, legal-sized envelope. I opened it, and photographs spilled out. They were pictures of a young woman with dark, curly hair and a bright smile. And there, standing beside her with an arm around her shoulder, was my David, looking 20 years younger and happier than I had ever seen him. Beneath the photos was a birth certificate. For a girl named Clara. Her birthday was 29 years ago. And listed under father was David's full name. The power balance in my life shifted in that cold, little room. This wasn't just about hidden money anymore. It was a hidden life. A hidden daughter. The realization didn't shatter me. It rebuilt me from the inside out, with colder, stronger materials. I was no longer the grieving widow. I was a woman who had been living a lie. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I placed everything back into the box, walked out of the bank, and drove home in perfect silence. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, just staring out at the bird feeder. I thought about forgiveness. I had always thought it was about letting go. But now I saw that sometimes, before you can even consider forgiveness, you have to establish justice. You have to reclaim your own story. My plan wasn't about revenge. It was about resolution. It was a quiet, dignified plan. First, I hired a soft-spoken, efficient female lawyer. I didn't want drama. I wanted facts. I showed her the bank statement and the contents of the safe deposit box. I told her my goal wasn't to destroy this young woman, Clara, but to understand the legal truth and protect what was left of my own life. We began the process of quietly, legally, establishing the facts. Next, I reached out to my oldest friend, Brenda. I needed an ally. Over a cup of tea, my hand steady around the warm mug, I told her everything. She listened, her eyes wide with shock, but she never interrupted. She just reached over and held my hand when I was done. Her silent support was an anchor in the storm. I was composed. I was resolved. I was going to find out the whole truth, on my own terms. I found an address for Clara. She lived a few states away. I didn't call. I wrote a letter. It was simple. I told her my name was Helen, and that I was married to David. I said that after his passing, I had discovered some information that led me to believe we might be connected. I gave her my phone number and said the choice to contact me was entirely hers. She called me 3 days later. Her voice was young and nervous. We agreed to meet at a quiet, neutral cafe halfway between our towns. I arrived first. When she walked in, I didn't need an introduction. She had his eyes. The exact same shade of blue. We sat across from each other. She was clutching a large envelope of her own. He found me on my 18th birthday, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He sent a card and some money. It became a pattern. Birthdays, Christmas. He told me about you, and the kids. He said he couldn't disrupt his family, but he wanted to help me. My mother passed away when I was young. He was all I had. She slid the envelope across the table. He wrote me letters. Not many. But he kept every one I ever sent back. I looked at the familiar handwriting on the envelopes inside. My husband's hand. Writing to another daughter. The confrontation wasn't angry. It was profoundly, deeply sad. The consequence of his secret had landed, and it was the truth, sitting right in front of me. I don't want to cause you any more pain, Clara said, her eyes pleading. I just wanted to know where I came from. I looked at this young woman, this living, breathing proof of my husband's betrayal. And I felt a strange, unexpected calm. The pain was his doing, not yours, I said, my voice quiet but firm. The strategy of silence is over. That meeting was a year ago. My relationship with Clara is complicated. It is not a mother-daughter relationship. It is something new and fragile, built on the wreckage of David's choices. We speak occasionally. I have met her little boy, my grandson. I included her in David's will, giving her a small, fair portion of the estate he had tried to keep from her. It was a small act of grace, for me, not for him. It was my way of untangling his lie. It's a difficult journey. Some days, the anger is still there. But other days, I feel a quiet strength. I tend my garden. I have my children and my grandchildren. I have my own life. I've learned that forgiveness isn't a single act, it's a landscape you travel through. And sometimes, the path to forgiveness requires you to first walk straight through the hard, unyielding territory of the truth. You can't forgive a lie you don't know exists. If this emotional story of family and forgiveness resonated with you, I understand. Please share your own thoughts in the comments below. And subscribe for more real-life stories about love, difficult truths, and finding peace.